What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Santa. We're back. We're bringing you Browns content. We know it's been a long time. We've grown up. We're adults now. We have lives that are very active, but we're here. We're going to talk some Brown stuff, mainly since the last time we were on here, the Deshaun Watson suspension, the official 11 games set in stone with the $5 million fine. We're going to talk about what that means for this team, what that means for the 11 games that we're going to play, and just get right into it. So, Jeff, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Cleveland Pulse is back. We're going to have a lot of uploads this week. We're going to have a lot of shorts moving forward. My schedule's kind of evening out. I have these weird weekdays off, which is weird, but it's good because weekdays I'm not doing anything. So here we are. We're going to have a lot of content. Browns, if you're here for the Browns, we appreciate you. If you're here for the Browns and the Cavs, that's coming down the pipeline. NBA season is right around the corner as well. And we're always in these weird periods of August. Like I was just telling you, do I care about OTAs and whatever in training camp? You know, it's fun to follow on Twitter, but it's like, do I want to put out like, clickbaity stuff about it with you? I mean, not really. Let's talk about the legit stuff, you know?
Yeah, obviously, if injuries happen, which they have, we'll talk about it and we'll get into it. But obviously, the biggest thing that's happened since the last time we were here was the Watson suspension. And so 11 full games. The whole ordeal is now over and done with. We can finally stop speculating, God, Twitter was such a mess for so many months. It's almost impossible to want to regurgitate everything that was said. But 11 games. So initially, what was it, Jeff? We had 5 games?
It was 6.
6 games. So I know me and you both talked about the worst case scenario and, the likely scenario, the best case scenario. We're going to do that again with these 11 games. We'll just go, if you're okay with it, we'll go game by game. But what's your initial thoughts with, the overall ruling and, obviously the NFL doing what they do best and just doing what they have always intended to take control of the situation?
Well, it's typical NFL because his first game back is going to be, is it 11 games or is it 12 games?
11 games.
Okay. So, but it's he's going to play the Texans the first week back, correct?
Yes. I believe our bye week is?
Our bye week is 9. So it's technically going to be week 13, but that's typical NFL to have these leaks come out that they want to suspend him past the Texans game because they don't want those optics. And then his first game is going to be on the road in Houston, which is fine with me because besides the fact that might be one of the most watched football games of the NFL season of the whole year, that should be a simple win at that point.
And a tune-up game.
Yeah, easy tune-up game before we get into 2 divisional rivals, essentially. And week 13, Texans are going to be out of the running for anything. They're going to be in essentially tank mode with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games left. I mean, no disrespect to the Texans. I don't have any disdain for them, but I don't mind that being the first game back. But at these other games before it, some of them are definitely a little hairy as far as the opponents.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, just obviously we're going to, as of right now, again, another talking point on Twitter about the quarterback situation with the suspension. But as of right now, rolling with Jacoby Brissett, has been a starter before and has done some good work. Jeff and I were just talking about it a little bit before about the passing offense and whatnot, but we got to remember we still have a fantastic O-line, a fantastic running back group, and, a defense that towards the end of the season was getting towards that top 10, top 15 play, and hopefully we'll, carry that over into this season. So going game by game, obviously that week 1, if you guys haven't been under a rock, Baker Mayfield obviously has been named the starter for the Panthers, but we're going to Carolina week 1. Jeff, is it just like in the cards of like, all right, it's one of those games where it has a lot in terms of like drama and whatnot that the Browns are going to go in there and they should win this game realistically still, but aren't just because there's all that drama and who knows what happens, but it'd be the one game that Baker goes off and finally throws for like 500 yards or something.
It really is going to be me dying on the Homer Hill. I'm going to start calling it the Homer Hill because I don't do it a whole lot, but I'm going to do it for this game. It's week 1 of the NFL season. The Browns, they traditionally, they lay eggs week 1,
Yep.
but this is the 3rd year under Stefanski. So that's tightened up a little bit. Perfect. But every other like storyline you look at for this game, you're correct. It almost just looks really bad for us. Baker revenge game. I'm a big believer in those type of storylines in sports. What I will say about the 53 man, which we'll have another video out later after this one. Make sure you check that out as well. Our defensive line looks terrible in the middle, in the interior. Obviously, your outside, your edge is going to be fine for the most part, but the interior looks terrible. And you see a healthy Christian McCaffrey week 1, not great. You're on the road week 1, not great. You're playing your former quarterback, not great. But I still have us winning this game. I don't know what it is. I just think that, I don't know, the pressure is going to be too much for them. I think that we're going to come out, and I don't know what Joe Woods is going to throw at Baker, but it'll be fun to see. It'll be interesting to watch. I can't wait for that game, actually.
Yeah, hopefully we see some up the middle blitzes from the linebackers because Baker, as someone who's watched Baker, he's not the greatest at stepping up into the pocket. Typically likes to roll out. So as everyone knows, I was a big Baker fan. So I have this as a Browns win. Surprisingly, I think that realistically, you look back to last year and we were talking about Kansas City to Carolina, very big difference in
huge
quality of team and quality of coaching there. Realistically, this should be a Browns win,
right?
But like Jeff said, there's always that like talking point of like, hey, this is a revenge game for Baker Mayfield, and they do have some quality players over there on the offensive side: Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore. But defensively, even though we're lacking a little bit on the offensive side in terms of quarterback play and wide receiver play, I still think we're in for a pretty good matchup, and I still think that we'll win that game. So I think a lot of people will probably say, oh, we'll lose just because of the narrative, but I'm going with a win here. So moving on, the next game going to be the Browns versus the Jets, the first game at home for the Browns this year. I've got this as a win. No Zach Wilson for them, and it's the Jets. As much as I like Robert Saleh as a coach, and I think that this franchise is improving gradually, I don't think they're there yet, and the Browns just are a better team.
Truthfully, I'd rather play Zach Wilson than Joe Flacco. That sounds weird, but I think Joe Flacco will make less mistakes in theory than Zach Wilson would in week 2 of the NFL season. So I got us with a win here, but I'm not really too worried about the Jets. I mean, I'm sure nothing's going to be easy, but I got it as a win.
Right. Moving on, we get our first divisional game against the Steelers very early on. Typically, I think we do have those early on divisional games, though. But the Browns are at home. Steelers currently with a mess of a quarterback room. I don't know.
Offensive line looks bad. Their quarterback is secondary to me because their offensive line just looks so bad in the preseason.
Yeah, but it is the Steelers. It is Mike Tomlin with Flores as their defensive coordinator now. This is one of those games where I'm going to go with the Steelers because I still think we are out-coached here. It's still the Steelers. And no matter what the play from their quarterback may be like, because it wasn't great last year, they were still a very competitive team. So, and with Najee Harris against our defensive line as it is right now, who knows? The dude could go off for 200 yards against us.
This is true. And this is twofold with the coaching because if you see that little orange rectangle at the end of that game, it's Thursday night football. So not only is it sure we're home, but it's a short week against Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin's a master of the short week. I got us losing that first loss of the year, hopefully, and we'll be at 2-1. And people have a freak out about that because we probably will get nickel and dime the whole game and we'll probably won't be very crisp. It's going to be a short week and they probably won't have any, huge explosive plays. And it's going to be like, oh, we definitely should have won this game, but it's going to be fine. And, we'll lick our wounds. And I think we'll beat Atlanta the next week.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Atlanta's in a terrible place as they are right now. And that's just like the Jets almost. It's like just can't really lose this team. It's not like the Panthers where it's like there's a chance, but this is one of those teams
Mhm.
where it's just like there should be no chance regardless of who your quarterback
Especially
is.
with that being on a long week. Sure, we have to travel, but you get your, that's the beauty of Thursday night. You get a little bit of buffer on the back end. And going into week 5, though, that's the first team I'm really worried about. I think
Yep,
that's potential for us to get, even at home, blown out. If
yep,
I love the Chargers this year, I think they're a legitimate contender to come out of the AFC.
yep.
They've made all the right moves in the offseason defensively, getting Khalil Mack, getting JC Jackson, cornerback. Herbert's only going to get better. I think
They're
we
studded out.
we might lose by 20 that week. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, they're studded out on both sides of the ball. I'm with you. I have this as a loss as well. So through 5 weeks, uh, or 3-2. I don't know why I
Mm-hmm.
was going to say two and
We're
two.
exactly the same so far. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that was very different from last year for the
Yeah.
most part. But 3-2 going into week 6 against the Patriots at home. That's a tough one because
Mm-hmm.
they obliterated us last year, but our defense was also still not playing to what they should have been, and now we're on the opposite end. But again, the Patriots, a very well coached team who they get what they want, and it may not be the most flashy thing in the world, but I still think they'll probably end up beating us because of our lackluster offense. Who knows if we figured it out by then, but I still think that's probably an L there.
Okay, we're going to disagree because they lost some considerable offensive line pieces this offseason due to their spending spree the previous offseason where they were handing out all those big contracts to wide
The tight
receivers and
ends.
tight ends. Yeah, their offensive line is considerably worse. I think we match up really good against them. They don't have like a true stud wide receiver one, and our corners are elite. And I think that this is a game where you could almost be like, wow, our defensive line all the way across is playing really good, but it's like their offensive line is taking a serious hit from last year. I think we win that game.
Okay, okay, I respect that. I mean, I it's hard for me to turn around and look at last year and not look at this year and compare the two, but obviously we are a lot better in some respects, and you could be right, they're worse in some others. So who knows? Maybe that's a lot closer than I think it is. Then we move on to our second division game against the Ravens. I have this as a loss, even though I have no idea what's going on with Lamar Jackson. Don't think he's going to hold out or anything, but I still think they're going to be healthy this year. And again, coaching comes into play, and I think they're a very talented team, anyways.
Yeah, I got us losing both these division games, which is going to suck. It's going to put us to 4-4 for my predictions. But the Ravens on the road, if Lamar, assuming Lamar is playing, he's their starting quarterback. Honestly, good luck. And then Cincinnati at home. I just don't see
Sunday
us
night.
have. I don't have us winning either of those games, unfortunately, which would make us 0-3 in the division, which
Ooh.
puts a huge damper on the rest of the season. Because if you're looking at that divisional tiebreaker, which always comes up, it's not
Yep.
great. But I think we have some room in the back end of our schedule with Deshaun Watson playing. He's seeing every divisional team once.
Yep.
So no guarantee we're going to sweep the second half, but it's a possibility, I think.
So I have been making a note about coaching and everything throughout this whole prediction
Mhm.
series, and I think this will be the one time where our coaching actually comes into play and actually helps us get the win here. I still don't think Zach Taylor is a very good coach. I
Me
think they
neither.
got. I think they got
Not yet. He could be good eventually, but I don't think he's as good as people make him out to be right now.
right. I think they got very far last year off of some luck and some other things, but I think we have the Bengals number. We've had the Bengals number since Joe Burrow has been there, and defensively, we just continue to give them fits. So hopefully that continues to be the story here. I'm going with a win on Halloween night. So that's a big game, and I'm
That should
looking
be
forward to
fun.
that one. Yeah,
Yep.
that should be a really fun one. So then moving on, we have the Dolphins, the newly Tyreek Hill Dolphins. Jeff, what are you thinking there?
I think out of the bye week, we win that game. And I'm only saying that because I've told you through 11, I think we're going to be 5-6. And after week 8, I said we're 4-4, and then we're going to be 5-4, and then we're dropping both the games to the Bills and Buccaneers, putting us at 5-6 before we
Mm,
get Deshaun Watson back. But week 13, post week 13, 6-6 with Deshaun Watson playing the rest of the year.
Yeah.
There would be no complaints about that for me, or there shouldn't be from anyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm wholeheartedly there with you, and I think so. That just takes out the next three games because I'm in a complete agreement with you. I think the Dolphins is a win coming out of the bye. I think the Bills are way too good to
Way
beat
too good.
without Deshaun Watson, and the Buccaneers have Tom Brady and a star-studded team around him, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking that as an L as well. So, I mean, that kind of rounds it out. So, what does that put us at, Jeff? 5-6, right?
5-6, but I have us losing to I have us beating the Patriots, losing to the Ravens. You have us losing to the Patriots, beating the Ravens.
Beating the Bengals.
Beating the Bengals. Sorry, I
Yeah.
have us losing to the Bengals.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's pretty. I mean, that's pretty good for us in terms of having disagreements. But
Mm-hmm.
11 games, 5-6 could be worse, could be better. But I think what we just did was the most likely scenario.
It's
Who
likely
knows?
to be worse. It's not likely to be any better, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we were pretty fair for the most part in terms of despite you and I having one or two disagreements.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. 5-6 is the best that we could get. Maybe not the best. Maybe we somehow sneak one out against someone, but I think there's also a chance someone sneaks one out against us early on. So
Correct.
who knows? But 11 games, and then Deshaun comes back, and hopefully, like we said, he knocks off the rust and gets us at least into fighting position for the wild card. Because, like
Yep.
Jeff said, 3 division games, knocks out half of the divisional games that we have, and that's a big task to overcome. So,
Yep. And if you think of the games last year, Stefanski tends to coach close games regardless of who our opponent is, which is annoying, but it's also beneficial. And it seemed like every time last year the opponent needed a big field goal, they would get it. And when we needed a big field goal, we would not get it. So you
Cade
draft
York.
Cade York to try to solve those issues, and hopefully some other teams get a little bit unlucky when they're playing us this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jeff, first video back. Obviously, been a long time. Guys, if we haven't been here in a while, please make sure that you are liking, subscribing, giving us some comments. Let us know what you guys think. Obviously, we've talked to some people online, so hopefully we'll see them again in the comments to get their new updated thoughts. But with that being said, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.